I never liked open offices, but I guess no one does. You learn to tune out the small annoyances, the cheap carpet smell, the coffee machine that coughs and sputters like it's dying, the hum of fluorescent lights that somehow make your eyes itch by noon. You just adapt. That's what I kept telling myself when Megan came back. Or when she appeared back at her desk, anyway. It was a Wednesday morning when I saw her. I just clocked in and was trying to force down the watery breakroom coffee when I saw her blonde hair bobbing at her cubicle. Megan from Accounts Payable. Same meat bun, same mint-colored cardigan she always wore, the one with the tiny snag on the sleeve. Except Megan had died. They told us in a very somber all-hands meeting 3 weeks ago. HR said she'd been in a car accident on her way home. We even signed a sympathy card that they mailed to her parents. Some people went to the funeral open casket, they said. She looked peaceful. So I must have stood there, staring like an idiot, until Brian from IT brushed past me and whispered, "You okay? Is that Megan?" I hissed. Brian glanced over and went pale. No idea, man. Maybe it's her sister. Megan didn't have a sister. I knew that because she'd told me, once, late at night when we both stayed behind to catch up on expense reports. I walked over to her cubicle. She was typing furiously, eyes locked on her monitor. Her fingers clicked across the keys in this steady, unnaturally fast rhythm, as if she was copying a text only she could see. "Hey, Megan," I croaked out. She didn't look at me, didn't flinch, just kept typing, lips slightly parted. I watched her throat bob as she swallowed, but she didn't blink. Not once. I forced a laugh. "Glad to see you back. We missed you." Nothing. Her desk was perfectly neat. No flowers. No balloons. Just a single sticky note with a jumble of numbers I didn't recognize. By lunch, the whispers were everywhere. Half the office kept peeking over the cubicle wall like we were in high school. The other half avoided her aisle altogether. Brian pulled me aside at the vending machines. "Did you hear what HR said?" he asked. He looked like he hadn't slept. "No, what?" "They said Megan's on extended medical leave. Has been for weeks. But she's sitting right there." "I know." He rubbed his eyes. "They told me not to worry about it. Not to disturb her. To treat her like she's not even here." I felt sick. "They what?" "Dude," they literally said, "if you see her, just carry on. It's an HR matter." That afternoon, I got brave. I told myself maybe I was seeing things. Maybe grief makes you hallucinate. So I ducked behind her cubicle again, pretending to grab a spare stapler. I watched her screen from an angle. She wasn't logged into anything, no emails, no spreadsheets, just a blank document. She was typing into nothing. Her eyes, dry and wide, fixed on the gray screen. Her lips twitched like she was mouthing words I couldn't hear. At exactly 5 p.m., she stood up. Still hadn't blinked. She picked up her purse, same old tote bag she always had, and walked out. Didn't log off her computer. Didn't say goodbye. I sat there long after she left, staring at the empty chair. I don't know what scared me more, that she was here, or that HR was telling us not to notice. I told myself I wouldn't look for her the next day. I even thought about calling in sick, but then I imagined her sitting there alone, pale fingers clacking across a blank screen, and I knew I'd end up here anyway. Megan was already at her cubicle when I arrived. Her hair was pulled back tighter than ever, skin waxy under the cheap overhead lights, and her eyes, dry, red-rimmed, staring. It would have been easier if no one else noticed, but people did. You could tell by the way they kept their heads down, by the way conversations trailed off whenever someone passed by her aisle. At 10 a.m., the manager held an impromptu meeting in the break room. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "Everyone, I know there's been confusion," he started, hands trembling as he poured himself coffee. "HR is handling it. If you see Megan, if you have any concerns, direct them to HR. Do not approach her. Do not disturb her. It's for her own well-being." Someone in the back let out a sharp laugh. "She's dead, Gary." The manager's head snapped up. "That's enough. This isn't funny." But no one was laughing. I couldn't focus all day. I found myself drifting past her cubicle again and again. At one point, I swear she turned, just slightly, like she'd sensed me, but her head stopped halfway, neck bent at an angle too stiff, as never moving from the screen. I couldn't take it anymore. I ducked into the stairwell and called HR myself. Some nameless, syrup-voiced woman answered. "Hi. I work on the second floor? Accounts receivable? I have a question about Megan Klein." Silence. Then, "Who?" "Megan. Megan from Accounts Payable." She's here today. But she passed away last month. Why is she? I'm sorry, sir. There's no one by that name in our system. What? I signed her sympathy card. You sent flowers. You. Sir, I'm afraid there's nothing more I can tell you. If you're feeling unwell, we can direct you to our wellness coordinator. I hung up. My heart hammered in my chest as I leaned against the cold cinder block wall. I could feel something shift in the building around me, like the air itself was thicker now, pressing me down. When I came back out, Brian was waiting near my desk. He looked worse than me, dark circles, twitching eye, like he hadn't slept in a week. I know you called them, he said. His voice was raw. Who cares? HR is gaslighting us. She's right there. He leaned in closer. She's watching me. I blinked. What? She stands outside my cubicle when I go to the bathroom. I come back and she's just there, staring, not blinking. I swear, man, I woke up last night and I saw her through my window. I wanted to laugh, to tell him he was paranoid, but the words died in my throat. Something told me if I laughed, he'd break right in front of me. That night, I stayed late. Part of me hoped I'd catch her leaving. Maybe I'd see her drive away, or dissolve into smoke, or whatever a dead coworker does at closing time. But the lights stayed on in her cubicle. The glow of her monitor cast a pale halo around her unmoving face. At 7:15, she finally stood up. I ducked behind the printer and watched. She didn't grab her purse this time. She just walked toward the stairwell, feet shuffling like she'd forgotten how to lift them properly. I trailed her. The office was dead silent except for the buzz of the exit sign. She reached the stairwell door and paused, her hand resting on the metal bar. I don't know what possessed me to speak. Megan? I whispered. Her head turned all the way too far, until her chin nearly touched her shoulder. Her eyes met mine. And still, she didn't blink. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw hers, huge, unblinking, locking onto me in the stale stairwell air. By morning, I'd almost convinced myself it hadn't happened, that maybe I'd nodded off at my desk, dreamt the whole thing. But when I came in, Megan was there. Already at her spot, same cardigan, same blank screen filled with ghost keystrokes. Brian was pacing by the copy machine when I got in. He looked like he'd been crying. She was outside my door again, he whispered. 2 a.m. Just standing there. Not knocking, just standing. I called the police, but when they showed up, she was gone. You're not sleeping, I said. Neither am I. Maybe it's stress. Maybe we're just... He grabbed my wrist, hard. She's dead, man. And she's here. She's watching us. What does she want? I didn't have an answer. At lunch, I went to HR in person. The door was half open. Inside, 2 managers I'd never seen before were hunched over stacks of folders. One of them, a woman with sharp cheekbones and eyes that flicked up too fast, saw me first. Can I help you? She asked, her smile painfully wide. I wanted to ask about Megan Klein. She froze. The man beside her didn't even look up. She's here, I continued. I mean, she's at her cubicle every day. She died a month ago. I don't know what's happening. The woman folded her hands, voice syrupy and flat. We appreciate your concern. Please return to your desk. Megan is in transition. Transition? What the hell does that mean? She smiled wider. Do you feel safe at work? The question stopped me cold. What? Do you feel safe at work? She repeated, each word bitten off like a piece of rotten fruit. I backed away. Yeah, sure. I'm fine. Then return to your desk. The door closed behind me before I could say anything else. I almost quit that afternoon. My half-written resignation sat in my drafts for hours. But every time I glanced over, Megan was there, motionless except for her fingers, tapping, tapping, tapping. Brian didn't show up the next day, or the day after that. I called his cell, texted him, even walked by his place. His car was still in the driveway, but no one answered the door. On Friday, HR sent out an email. Due to recent staffing changes, Brian Miller will no longer be working with us. Please respect his privacy. I wanted to scream. I almost did. When I got home that night, my apartment felt wrong. Too cold. The lights seemed dimmer, though every bulb worked fine. I locked every window. Checked the closets. The bathroom mirror. Nothing. But around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I shouldn't have answered. God help me, I shouldn't have. I pressed it to my ear, and for a second all I heard was breathing. Then a faint click, 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 like fingernails tapping a keyboard. Megan, I whispered. The line went dead. I spent the rest of the night in my car, parked 2 blocks away, engine running. I watched my own windows from the street, half expecting to see her face there, pale and wide-eyed in the glass. I called in sick the next morning. No one from HR replied. No one called me back. And still, I knew. On Monday, she'd be there. Waiting. I don't know why I went back. Maybe because I needed to see for myself that she was still there. Maybe because if I stayed home alone, I'd start seeing her anyway, standing in the hallway, behind the shower curtain, outside my window. So Monday morning, I put on the same wrinkled shirt I'd worn all weekend, splashed cold water on my face, and walked into that stale, humming office like nothing was wrong. Megan was there. Of course she was. She looked worse now, if that was possible, skin pale and stretched tight, hair perfectly combed but lifeless. And still those eyes, open so wide they seemed to take in every flicker of the fluorescent lights. When I sat at my desk, I could see her over the cubicle wall. I don't think she'd ever looked away from her screen. No one talked about her anymore, not out loud. But you could feel it in the air. People moved quieter, laughed less. Everyone's eyes darted like they were waiting for something to crawl out from under the carpet. Around noon, the lights flickered. Just once, but long enough for the office to fall into this deep, breathless darkness. When they came back on, Megan's head was turned toward me. She didn't move again for hours. Just stared, not blinking. At 3 p.m., I finally lost it. I grabbed my jacket, shoved my laptop into my bag, and made for the elevator. I didn't care what HR said. I didn't care if they fired me. I just needed to get out. The elevator was out of service. Of course it was. I tried the stairs. When I pushed the door open, a wave of cold air hit me like a slap. The stairwell light flickered too. And at the bottom of the stairs, through that tiny wired glass window in the exit door, I saw her. Megan. Standing outside. Just standing there, like she'd been waiting for me. I slammed the stairwell door shut and stumbled back into the hallway. My chest was tight, my vision swimming. I must have looked like a maniac because people shrank away when I passed. I didn't care. I needed to talk to someone normal. So I went back to my desk, pulled up my contacts, and called Brian's number again. It rang once, twice. Click. Hello. The voice was thin, raspy. Not Brian's. Who is this? I demanded. The voice was so faint I almost missed it. She's here. I'm here. A wet, shuffling sound. Then silence. I dropped my phone. I don't remember much of the rest of that day. I remember stumbling to the break room, splashing water on my face, staring at my reflection in the vending machine glass. Megan was behind me, close enough that if she breathed, I'd have felt it on my neck. But she didn't breathe. She just watched. When I turned, she was gone. I didn't sleep again that night. I didn't go home, either. I sat in my car in the parking garage, engine off, seat reclined, eyes wide open like hers. Every sound, a footstep, a creak, made my skin crawl. But I stayed. At 4 a.m., I saw her again. She drifted between the cars like a wisp of steam. No footsteps, no shadows, just this shape that looked like Megan. Same cardigan, same dead stare, moving through concrete pillars. She stopped by my car, bent forward. For a second, her face was right against the window. I thought she'd knock or speak, but she didn't. She just leaned there, those eyes inches from mine, not blinking, not breathing, until the sun came up. And then she was gone. When I stumbled into work that morning, people looked at me like I was the ghost. Maybe I was. Maybe I'd crossed over somehow into her world. HR called me into their office around noon. 2 new people this time, a man and a woman who both smiled like they'd been painted on a wall. Are you feeling well? The man asked. No, I said. He tapped a folder. Do you know where Brian Miller is? I stared. You fired him. The woman's smile twitched. That's not what we have here. She slid the folder across the desk. I didn't want to look, but I did. Brian's name. His photo. His personnel file, open to a memo marked deceased, do not process. I looked up. My throat was so dry I could barely speak. He's dead. They didn't answer. Just kept smiling. I left the folder there. Walked out without another word. Past Megan's cubicle, empty now, for once, past the break room, past the buzzing exit sign. I didn't stop until I was in my car. I thought about driving away, about never coming back. But my keys weren't in my pocket. They were on my desk. And when I looked up at the office windows, I saw her standing there. Megan. Watching. Always watching. I don't know what I expected when I went back for my keys. Maybe that she'd be waiting for me in my chair, her lifeless hands drumming on my keyboard. Maybe she'd be perched on my desk, legs folded like a bird, eyes wide and dry. But when I stepped onto the floor, the office was empty. Too empty. No hum of the printers, no clatter of keyboards, no forced laughter from the break room. Just that stale, electric silence. My keys were right where I'd left them, beside my half-finished resignation letter, still open on the screen. I snatched them up. I should have run. I know that now. But I paused. Something caught my eye. Megan's cubicle. Her chair was turned away from the desk, facing the aisle like she'd just stood up and walked off. But her monitor was still on. I told myself it was curiosity that made me step closer, but really, it felt more like gravity. I stood in her space for the first time. Close enough to see the stains on the carpet, the deep scratches on her desk where her nails must have dug in. Her screen was still blinking, but this time, she'd actually typed something. One line, over and over, filling the blank page. Do you see me? It scrolled endlessly, thousands of lines. The last one stopped halfway, DOUCM. I felt her before I heard her. A coldness behind me, like the AC had kicked on at full blast. I turned. She was there. Closer than ever. So close I could see the tiny cracks in her skin, the grayish tint around her lips. Her eyes were wide, so impossibly dry. She didn't blink. Megan, I croaked. My voice was so small in that cavernous quiet. She opened her mouth not to speak, but like she was about to swallow the words instead. A brittle sound came out, like wine through dead leaves. And I realized she was trying to say it. Do you see me? I wanted to run. I tried, but my feet wouldn't move. She leaned closer, and her eyes, God, those eyes, they weren't just wide, they were empty, black pits that pulled at the edges of my mind. Suddenly, the overhead lights snapped off. Complete darkness swallowed us. For a second, the only thing I could see were her eyes, two pale discs glowing in the dark. Then a new light flickered on behind her, a greenish glow, low and sickly. The HR office door had cracked open. Inside, I saw figures. More of them. Rows of people standing perfectly still in the green light. Their eyes unblinking. Some were people I knew. People who'd moved on. Brian was there. I swear it. Megan turned her head, the movement stiff, unnatural. She was showing me what came next. I stumbled backward, finally breaking whatever spell she'd cast on my legs. I bolted. Down the aisle, past the empty cubicles, past the break room with the humming fridge that suddenly sounded like it was breathing. I didn't look back until I reached the parking garage. When I did, I saw her in the window above, Megan, standing at the glass, hand pressed flat against it, watching me, not blinking. I left town that night. Drove until the gas light blinked on. Slept in the car at a rest stop with my keys clutched to my chest like they could keep me safe. It's been 3 weeks since I quit. New job, new apartment, new number. But the emails still come, blank messages from an address I don't recognize. Sometimes there's an attachment. I never open them. Last night, I woke up to find my laptop on the floor, screen glowing in the dark. I know I didn't turn it on. There was a single document open, the page filled with that same line. Do you see me? It was signed, Megan. I don't know if she followed me, or if I never really left her behind. Maybe that's what HR really does. They don't protect you from them. They protect them from you. Keep them where they belong. Keep them watching. Keep them waiting. And if you're lucky, maybe you'll never see her standing behind you when you're working late, or staring at you through the window while you sleep. Just remember this. If you do see her, don't blink. Because she won't.